Hello, friends, and welcome to Season 10 of the Future Ready Librarians Podcast series, Leading from the Library. This is a podcast for all librarians wherever you are in your journey. It is filled with amazing guests, important topics, and engaging conversations that will inspire, engage, and support all of us as future ready librarians. I am your host, Shannon McClintock Miller. I am the district teacher librarian at Van Meter Community School in Van Meter, Iowa, and serve as the Future Ready Librarians leader. I have the pleasure of working within my library and school community and also with others around the country and world through Future Ready Librarian events, conferences, consulting, writing, and more. I am honored to bring these voices and the work of others to our podcast and to all of you. Well, everybody, today you're in for a real treat. I always love welcoming my dear friend Martha on to the Future Ready Librarian Podcast because we get to talk about all things creativity and curiosity, future of school librarians, and today's theme is Beyond the Books. So welcome, Martha.
Hi, Shannon. Thanks for having me on today. It's always lovely when I get to chat with you, for sure.
I know. I love it. I love it too. I was so excited to come home from school so I could see you. So I'm happy that you joined us. So first, just start by telling us who you are, a little bit about your past and what you're doing right now.
Okay, so this is a short episode, so I got to keep it quick. I am a veteran school librarian for 15 years in public education. I've worked in rural and urban settings. I've worked with a $0 budget all the way through a fully funded library, and I've spanned pre-K all the way up through 12th. So I've had some fun experiences, and I am recently advocating for school librarians on a different level with Adobe for Education full-time for the past year. So I've gone from GLMA president to advocating on a national level. So it feels cool.
I love that. I know. And what a great time, like, to get to work with all librarians and educators still, but to get to use these amazing tools that Adobe creates for all of us. And we'll talk about that more too. But I am so excited that today we get to talk about all things, creativity and just inspiring our kids. And so just by starting and kind of setting like our stage, we know that school libraries go way beyond the books, but what does that really mean? And why is creativity at the heart of it?
Oh, what a great question to start with, Shannon, because that's really talking about the heart of our libraries, right? Like, why are we more than just books? And to me, it's a conversation that we've had for forever since I've been in the field, and something I've learned from you too, that our libraries are not just quiet spaces, that these are more than just shelves of stories and shelves of books. These are, yes, books are powerful. I think we were just having that conversation, but it's what happens beyond them, the stories that we learn from these books. It's where stories come to life. It's where students don't just consume, but they create understanding about themselves and the world around them. They discover, they question, they build, they share. And to me, that's where creativity comes in, because it's the thread that kind of weaves everything together. It's what I feel like our students and ourselves, we need it to thrive in this world where curiosity and resilience and emotional expression and problem solving all come into play. And so it's that thread that just keeps everyone together. And to me, when we're serving every student and every subject, every spark of curiosity, our spaces have to reflect that, and creativity helps us do that in a different way. So for me, it's not just books on shelves. It's more than that. And creativity plays a huge role in that to me, and it's foundational in everything we do.
I know. It's why it's why I love teaching and why I became a librarian. I mean, and
Yes.
I think about even being, I think about like when I was little and my sister and and we'd pull out our books and it was always about the books, but it was also like what we were doing with them. Like, were we
Hmm.
taking them outside and making something? Were we drawing something on paper, making something with a cardboard box? Like, and all the things, not just like about the books, but the learning that's taking place in the books and just really bringing all of that to life, I think, is what is
Yeah.
so magical about libraries and just embracing that creativity and curiosity. So it's so great. I think too about like taking a little bit of a step back and thinking about like what it was like when you were a librarian and we got to watch like what you were doing, especially your last library. Like that space was so amazing.
Thank
What
you.
what a great space. And I think like just giving us a little glimpse into like what a day or a week look like because I think because you were a librarian, like you have so many amazing ideas, but just kind of give us like take a little step back and talk about that.
Oh my gosh, what a day, what a week, what a month looks like. It's every second. What happens in a library minute? Like it could be anything and everything depending on what our students are needing, what they're seeking, what our teachers are seeking. You could have students sewing in one corner, creating with perler beads in another corner, chatting about the latest book in another. um, oh my gosh, I could go on and on about my previous library, but I think what makes everything come alive is embedding student voice and choice at the heart of what we do. To me, it's this idea of possibility that really drives everything that we do. It's the power of yes, and how do we make that happen? It's about creative potential. So, yes, there were standardized things that we did. I worked with teachers, we collaborated, we co taught together, we did research lessons, but it's always from the frame of how do we get students to think outside the box? How do we help them learn more about themselves and the world around them? And see the threads that bring everyone together and a common ground and a common perspective while we're thinking outside that box. So, gosh, Shannon, a day, a week, it's always different, always changing.
I know.
You know
It
the drill.
is. Well, and you've talked a lot about like hands-on things and collaboration, but what
Yeah.
did creativity in action look like when kids were using technology?
So I think it's putting it into action. So a lot of times figuring out how to get their voice in a way that it makes sense to the audience that they're meeting, right? So that could be creating something as simple as a flyer or something more complex like a podcast or multimodal learning. So, being on social media nowadays, how important it is to have quick bites for folks to learn from. So, how do you teach students that messaging of, I have something really important to share? I've done all this research. How do I synthesize all of this and make it so that my parents or my community or my principal, whoever that audience is, will understand it, first of all, and then second, engage with it in a new level. So to me, different tools will allow you to do that. Clearly, I work for Adobe now, and that's always been a tool that I've used, but Book Creator and Spotify for podcasters and all of these out there, they've been just wonderful assets to allow our students that room and space to share their creative selves to get their messaging across.
I know, and it's something that I mean, another thing that both of us are really passionate about is kids using, technology, I think, to just bring their learning and their creativity, to life in amazing and just beautiful, meaningful ways.
Mm.
And now, we're all talking about AI and how that is changing our creative landscape. We had an amazing kind of app smash this last week with Book Creator and Adobe. I absolutely love it.
Good.
And I am like over the moon that that happened. But I think we think about, and I talk to a lot of librarians, and we're questioning or excited or maybe nervous about the role that school librarians should play in
Mhm.
AI. So, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, so I have so many thoughts. I'm probably trying to boil that down into one episode with you. But first of all, taking a step back about what I believe school librarians are, first and foremost, are judgment-free spaces for students. To me, it's never about perfection. I mentioned it earlier. It's all about possibility for students to take creative risks, giving them that permission to fail forward, to iterate, to dream. That's the true magic of when our spaces come alive and we see creativity in action. So for me, AI doesn't replace anything. It doesn't replace that creativity. It stretches it. So it allows, from my perspective, students to brainstorm and visualize and bring ideas to life in new ways that maybe they wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. We have this traditional view a lot of times in conversations. I'm sure you see it. I'm sure the audience that's listening to it sees it, where creativity equals artistic ability. And that's just not the case. So for me, AI is a powerful tool in the hands of a curious learner. But that's also where we play a role as school librarians and talking about the ethics of using AI and how to use it responsibly and how to pair it with your voice, not to replace it. It's something to enhance what we're doing. There's a really cool study that Adobe did last year, Shannon, about creativity and AI and all of that. And I'll share that link with you. But it was fascinating. 85% of like the 2,000 plus folks that they had interviewed for this believe that AI enhances creative thinking, and that 89% say that if students are already using AI tools in class, why not do it in a more ethical way and teach them how to use it and guiding them instead of teaching them to replace what they're doing. So yeah, I think that's really interesting. It's a companion to creativity.
Yeah, I love it. I am so excited. And I think we have such a huge opportunity as school librarians, not only on
Mm-hmm.
how we are working with our kids and understanding that, but working with our teachers and even our families about
Yes.
understanding those connections. And we've always helped in that regard if it is, sharing resources or curating things or explaining things or helping with research, whatever it might be. And so now we have this really cool opportunity to, be a leader in how we are thinking and embracing and using AI. So I'm very excited about it. And I love that just enhancing, like what we're already doing and really, making I think that their voice and their creativity heard in so many more like really unique and amazing ways. So I'm very excited about that. Very.
Yeah. And I think when we're using tools, we've talked a lot about ethics and AI, and it takes 30 seconds to look up where algorithms are being trained from, like just terms and services of the tools that we're using, like who owns the work that AI is creating from and how is it being created. When I create something, who owns that work at that point? There's a lot of conversations around that. So just knowing your tools, terms, and services, I think plays a large role in how we can ethically and responsibly use AI in order to enhance what we're doing. So,
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I'm glad that you pointed that out too, because it gives everybody really something to think about, and share as well within our schools. So when we think about like our kids and, I had a podcast yesterday, a great elementary librarian that built this amazing maker space within her community. And it was a small school. And we talked about, student well-being and how just like curiosity, how it ties into creativity. And I would love to know your thoughts about, why that matters for our students' well-being.
oh my gosh, there's so much research out there on the tie between the ability to just create, whether it's something physically, like how we traditionally think of a maker space, to something that's more tech tool based. And to me, when you're thinking about well-being and students creating, it allows them the opportunity to just ask questions and feel a little more free in what they're doing and wonder what if. To me, that helps them explore ideas that they care about. It helps going from this idea of compliance-based education to something that's a little more genuine engagement. And when we have that, we have kids getting excited again. We have students connecting with one another. We have curiosity-driven learning, which also increases resilience in our students and grit and those conversations that we've been having around that. And then they also realizing that trying and failing is okay. And in a standard test, you can't measure that. I either pass or I don't. And we have this amazing opportunity in the library and maker spaces, whether it's low tech or high tech, to allow that failing forward idea to take hold and take root in our students. That just because you fail doesn't mean that you don't pass. Like, it's a growth and it's a journey that we're all on. So creativity and curiosity gets wrapped up in play and connection and community building. And that helps support students while being in quiet but powerful ways. It's ways that we don't see until the long game is finished for them and they graduate. It's the daily creative pieces that help build them up and build that well-being, but also just drawing, like just being able to doodle, just being able to create with curler beads. There's some calming pieces about that where we're not attached to technology, and it allows you to just kind of relax and feel like what it was to be 5 again. That's why high schoolers, you hear so many media specialists talk about low key, low tech maker ideas for them, like the Zen zones that so many have, the calming corners. There's some validity in that for low pressure exploration and connection.
Yeah, we think about our own lives, and just as adults and how we might get out and walk or doodle or knit or whatever it might be. And our kids need that for their well-being.
100%. Yeah.
Need that all the time. And the last thing I want to talk about is just us as future ready librarians and future ready creativity. I love that. You wrote that down on the sheet when we were getting ready for the podcast. And I would love to know how you think that librarians can advocate for creativity as a non-negotiable part of learning. And I think also just a part of what we do as librarians too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I want to write a whole book on this with you, Shannon, about future ready creativity. I think, let's see, one of the guiding principles of that to me is not being quiet about what we do. There's been a conversation, I think even just a couple minutes ago before we started recording, we were going down this like rabbit hole of advocacy and conversations around the current state of librarianship. And we just cannot be quiet about what we're doing. Advocacy to me does not mean policy papers and boardroom conversations. It definitely includes that. But it also looks like your student voices on podcasts and advocating in that way. It's a video showcasing a passion project on the student news, or a quick email to the principal showing a picture of what your kids were just creating, a free little art library set up in your library, or a library webpage that just highlights student creativity and action, and using tools like Book Creator or Adobe Express to really show what's happening in your space. What does a day look like? What does a library minute look like in your space? And it's one thing to talk about that on a podcast, but when you can show it visually, the impact is so much greater. So don't be afraid of telling your story. Don't wait for permission. Don't wait, because when people see what creativity looks like in your library, they can't unsee that value. And then the last thing that I'll say about that is just don't be fearful that your voice isn't enough. It can be quiet. A lot of us are introverted folks. We're booktroverts. Is that the term that's out there? But the most powerful advocacy comes from your student voices. When they create, they have something to say, no matter how little or how small something is, your voice matters. So when we amplify those stories, it helps shift mindsets in the right direction, that libraries are the last third spaces that we have, and we have to promote that and love on it and cherish it as much as we can, because if we don't tell our stories, someone else will.
Absolutely. I know. And I think about that. I was at school today and I went from having kids, they created, kindergartners created a map. So with their hands and their imaginations, and
Yeah.
after reading Made by Maxine, amazing book. And then afterwards, they drew their routes to have their little Ozobots go. But my favorite part of that whole activity was not only reading like Ruth's book, but seeing kids being creative and thinking about like what they learned and how they wanted their map to look, and putting all those skills together and sharing pictures of that. It doesn't matter, like, and stories, like how big or small, like what we're doing, we have to advocate for those little moments of like spark and learning and creativity and all those things. And I walked by my principal and I couldn't wait to tell him, because this is an activity we do every year. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, you have to go see their maps, like, and then I went to creating a display in the hallway, to cataloging books, to all these things. But it's a huge part of the world that we live in, and we don't want to lose that creativity. And so I just love that, we can spread the word and amplify and celebrate what other people are doing too. So I'm so happy you were on
Yeah.
today, just
Oh,
to
thanks, Shan.
talk about this and all the work that you're doing, and also that Adobe for Education. We're just very grateful, and it's amazing. So really, really lucky to be able to have those tools and resources within our school. Just tell people too, before we end today, Martha, like where they can find Adobe Education, and also just, I
Yeah.
mean, give like a little thing, because if people don't use it and they don't know that it's like free for education, like I think it's a great thing to say.
Oh gosh. Yeah, I don't want people to think I came on for that. But no, I've been using this tool since it was Adobe Spark in the back in the day. So
Yep.
y'all who have been around for a minute probably remember it called Adobe Spark. And it has always been and will always be a free tool for creative expression in classrooms. It's just shifted its branding a little bit. Adobe Express for Education can be found on Adobe Express for Education. You can just type it into Google, it'll pop up for you, completely free. No matter if you're private or public education, all nonprofits have access to it for free. But you can create graphics and multimodal learning opportunities for students with presentations and videos, and the only K-12 compliant podcasting platform that's out there in the world. So, and web pages, gosh, I could go on,
Oh,
but
I know. It's
it
amazing.
just has so many options to allow students the space and the
Yeah.
freedom to choose what's right for them and right for their audience.
Yeah, I love it. And I'll make sure that everybody has a link to that in the notes and also to that report that you shared, Creativity with AI from Adobe for Education. I think that's great. And we also have to share the little template that you made when we used it at FETC to create their own Future Ready Librarian. So I'll make sure that I share that too. And where can they find you at? I know that you're on social.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. So I'm at MRS Bongiorno EDU across all the things. I just recently tried Blue Sky and I'm kind of liking it over that way too.
Yes, I know. Me too. It's hard to keep up sometimes, but I love the conversations and it's fun. So I love
it's been good.
Well, thank you, my friend. It was great to have you on, always.
Thank you. I always love getting to chat with you, Shannon. It just makes my heart so happy. So
thank you, my friend. Well, we'll keep in touch and keep watching all the great things you're doing. So thank you again. As always, thank you to all of our listeners for joining us for this episode of the Future Ready Librarian Podcast series, Leading from the Library. And a very special thank you to our sponsors, Follett. You make a difference in our libraries, schools, and within our lives, and that of our students every day. We appreciate everything you do. I hope you can take what you learned in today's podcast and put it to use within your practice as a future-ready librarian. If I can support you in any way, please feel free to reach out to me on X or Instagram at Shannon M. Miller or to my email at shannonmcclintockmiller@gmail.com. I am always happy to help and support each and every one of you. Until next time, friends, keep finding ways to lead within and from your library.